Thank you to the almost 4 million of you who watched our Wuhan timeline video on Facebook, which described what happened as it happened. Wuhan is where the outbreak was first discovered, and as such, health workers, experts, and authorities were all at the front lines of trying to identify and understand what it was, how dangerous it was, and how to stop its spread. Sadly, Wuhan is no longer unique. Too many cities in every part of our planet are being ravaged by this new and cruel disease. People have died, families are mourning, and communities are shaken with grief. And yet there's no time to stand still because this health emergency has expanded into an epic crisis of social, economic, and global proportions. But now Wuhan has been declared free of the virus, and I want to look at how that's been possible. It starts with vigilance. In an interview with the China Current, Jeffrey Sachs, professor at Columbia University, said the turnaround in Wuhan offers proof and hope that an epidemic can be contained even after breaking out. But that's not to say a second, third, fourth, or fifth wave is heading our way. After all, one way we can honor those who have died is to be alert to further threats. In China, businesses are reopening, factories are coming back to life, students are preparing for exams, and people returning to shops, restaurants, and life in general. But all of this is very, very gradual, often with a staggered approach so that numbers are contained and the risk of infection is reduced. In Wuhan, millions of people are still wearing face masks, washing their hands frequently with soap and sanitizer, keeping a distance from those around them, and avoiding unnecessary interactions that could trigger another wave. Part of this has to do with culture and history, not because China is any better than any other country or region, but because it was prepared by SARS, the outbreak of severe acute respiratory syndrome in 2002. Nearly 20 years later, the trauma has not left the people, which is why the hard lessons learnt then quickly came back this time around. In addition to SARS, Chinese health workers were active in 2014 when a bout of Ebola broke out in West Africa. With their American colleagues, they fought the disease and built up critical experience in how to respond in an emergency, and in this case in countries with very fragile health systems. Apart from culture, there's also the question of speed. In this outbreak, Wuhan built and repurposed a number of emergency field hospitals, most famously Huoshengshan and Leishanshan. These massive medical facilities were entirely constructed in around 10 days. Thousands of workers put their own worries aside as millions of people in lockdown watched every step of the process on live stream, not only a feat of engineering, but a demonstration of human solidarity and getting on with the job. But why did 60 million people in Wuhan and nearby cities agree to remain indoors for 76 long days, especially as at the time there was no precedent to follow? I'm sure there was resistance at the start. We're all human, and the way we react in crises is not so different from one another. I think it has to do with individual discipline and mindset. And then there is Confucianism. If we look at two countries that slowed and stopped the virus, we think of China and South Korea, which share a similar Confucius philosophy, where societal values are shaped by respect, culture, and order. Of course, good values are not exclusive to anyone, but it offers a way to understand the success of specific responses, especially Wuhan, which had the most severe lockdown anywhere. No one was allowed in or out of the city, no buses, no trains, no planes, not even private vehicles on the street. Lena, a teacher in Wuhan I spoke to, said even when the lockdown was finally lifted, she and her elderly parents chose not to hug, not until they're given the final all clear. This is discipline in action, but it's also an awareness that doing the right thing is compassion and civic duty. Keeping yourself healthy means other people will be healthy too. And this brings me on to my last thought. We've explored how vigilance, culture, speed, experience, and discipline are all critical components to achieving an effective response. I'll add one more here. Leaders and governments must build policy on science and public health measures only. The China Current continues its special coverage on the coronavirus outbreak. Go to our social media @The China Current and our website for interviews, videos, and podcasts. I'm James Chau. Thank you.